Delve was one of PoE's first out-of-map activities, and it's been a long-time favorite of mine. It works very differently from most other content in Path of Exile, and it can be extremely valuable and rewarding. In short, the deeper you go, the more dangerous but also more rewarding Delve is. Up to a point, but let's be honest, most people are never going to reach that point. And so today, I'm going to talk about what you need to do to get started in farming Delve, a few tips and tricks on how to progress through the Delve itself, including pathing, quickly go over things like biomes and why they matter, though honestly that's not as important as it used to be, and talk about some of the special nodes and special rewards which you can encounter and why you might want to farm them. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, then do be sure to stay tuned, and if you want to know more about how to farm in Path of Exile, get subscribed, leave a like while you're down there. For now, let's get into things. First up, to start delving, you need Voltaxic Sulphite, and you obtain this by encountering Nico, completing his missions, or using a Sulphite scarab within your maps. The fastest way is definitely gilded Sulphite scarabs, as they tend to be one of the more affordable gilded scarabs. However, you can also get some free Sulphite just by completing maps with the right Atlas passives, so let's start by getting into those. So here are the 4 locations on your tree where Delve nodes are located. Down here you have Mad Devotion, where your maps have a 4% chance to grant an additional Nico mission on completion. This is a good way to just kill bosses and get more Nico missions. Next up, Pact of Energy. This gives you bonuses which allow you to clear your map more quickly by clicking on Sulphite. And the Guarded Hordes, which does give you a little bit more Sulphite, a 5% chance to double, so 5% more, and some Sulphite hoarding monsters. Realistically, this isn't going to be super impactful, but if you're going all in on Delve, you might as well take it, because more is better. Over here, we have mining byproducts. Sulphite veins and chests have a 10% chance to contain an equal amount of Azurite. Now, Azurite is a very valuable and rewarding resource, so if you're going to be clicking Sulphite anyway, you should absolutely pick this up. And last but certainly not least is Sulphite Infusion. This is when you want to casually delve on the side, but it isn't your main focus, where you get passive Voltaxic Sulphite just for killing the boss and completing your maps. It's going to be far less than if you put on a Nico mission or even used a Scarab. However, it is something, and something's better than nothing. Now, outside of the Sulphite gathering phase, your Atlas passives do not affect the Delve itself. And it's important to remember that your Sulphite does scale with map quantity. More is better, and that means you want to roll your maps, even if you don't plan to kill all the monsters or run them entirely. This is especially important when you're using something like a gilded Sulphite scarab. Within the Delve itself, you're facing King of the Hill style gameplay. You need to follow your cart through the darkness, sticking to the light until you reach the endpoint. Monsters within the darkness can attack you, but while they're in the darkness, they are invulnerable. So rushing to the point is generally a good idea. And you namely kill a bunch of monsters for a while on the point until you get your rewards. Now you have a couple of tools within the Delve, which you need to upgrade at the Voltaxic Generator. First up, Sulphite capacity. In general, you want this to be higher so that you can do more delving every time you go map. This doesn't actually make you get more Sulphite, it just lets you store more so you don't have to constantly run back to maps to fill up your bar. Then you have Darkness resistance. Based on your depth, this reduces the amount of damage darkness deals to you. You will often find yourself in darkness, so having some of this makes it easier, but it's technically not strictly necessary. You could stick to the light. Then you have Light Radius. This goes up to a maximum of plus 150%, and does scale down the deeper you go, so you'll need to keep investing into it. However, I find that the cart sometimes moves too fast if I have too much light radius, and actually about 40 or 50% is comfortable for me. Then you have Flares. You craft these with Sulphite, and you drop them, they illuminate an area. Similar to Flares, you also have Dynamite. This you drop, and after a short second, it explodes, dealing damage and stunning enemies. This can break certain walls or even stun bosses out of their animations, and as you upgrade it, it does quite a bit of damage. You can carry more flares by upgrading them here, increase their duration, or increase their light radius. Similarly, you can carry more dynamite, increase its damage, or increase its radius. In general, I would say that for flares, upgrading them is good, but don't waste too much Azurite on that, because that is a major source of your profits. And upgrading dynamite is kind of up to you, but I don't tend to most of the time. So as you're going through, what are some of the nodes that you want to look out for? Well, map nodes drop sextants. Fossil nodes drop fossils. You can also get resonator boxes, which give you valuable resonators that you need to socket fossils into to craft with them. These drop from a wide variety of rewards, but are especially popular on end nodes. And then there are cities which drop more sextants, maps, and even sometimes have bosses. These bosses have their own unique rewards. In general, I would say that resonators, awakened sextants, and boss drops will make up a majority of your profits, with fossils coming in a little bit behind, but that does depend on the current league's economy. As a result, a pretty good rule of thumb is if it has a different icon, something that doesn't look like just a generic treasure box, you should probably take a look at it and run it once to see what kind of rewards you get. Over time, you'll get a pretty good feeling for which are the most rewarding. And occasionally, those specialty nodes even drop a fractured version of the item, which can sell for multiple or dozens of divines. Things like fractured +1 spectre on your chest or fractured curse on hit rings. Two cities that I want to call out in particular are the Val cities, which have a Huatli the Blind who can drop the Val aspect used in creating the Adorned, and also the Doriani's Machinarium, or Primordial cities who have a chance to contain all the Crystal King. He drops rings used to roast mods on Precursor's Emblem, Crown of a Tyrant, and All's Uprising, which allows you to use an aura without reserving the mana. Now, fossils are a little bit special because fossils are based on biome. There are two types of fossils. One, regular ones, which you'll often find by breaking walls, and specialty fossils which have their own node, such as this Molten Cavity, which rewards the highly coveted Faceted Fossil. Generally speaking, to get the most cities, bosses, and rare fossil nodes, you want to go down to around 500 depth in the delve. But technically speaking, as long as your build can easily and efficiently handle it, deeper is generally better. There's no hard and fast rule of only stop at this depth because it kind of depends on your build. You should definitely stop when you find different modifiers in the zone to be problematic, or you're consistently failing nodes. Better to just go sideways and farm the profits than to keep going ever deeper until you encounter a Balrog that completely destroys you. Now, as you're pathing to the various nodes, you should absolutely keep your eye out for fractured walls. These can be illuminated using a flare and broken using dynamite. Behind them, there's a variety of rewards. Wealth boxes, for example, often contain currency. Resonator boxes contain resonators which can be sold for currency. Fossilized remains can be clicked and often yield valuable fossils, though you'll want to price check things after running a few just to get a better idea in the current economy, as that is a quite volatile market. But realistically, as you're going down initially, you shouldn't really stop to farm things out. If you encounter a boss, yes, absolutely stop. If you encounter a valuable specialty node, such as contains minion modifiers or contains elemental modifiers for whatever the hot element is, then yes, stop and try to get that +1 Spectre chest or that curse on hit ring. And you want to kill the bosses because boss drops tend to be quite expensive. However, because you'll encounter these things more frequently as you go deeper, it's better to just go deeper, assuming that you can afford to and your build can handle it. Also, as you go deeper, keep an eye out for Tier 3 Azurite nodes, because the Azurite can be sold for resonators to Nico, and those really do add up quickly. So here's an example of Nico's shop. For 10,000 Azurite, I could get a perfect fossil. For 3,750, I could get a powerful chaotic resonator. For 750, I could get a potent chaotic. And for 300, I could get a primitive chaotic. And so what I'd want to do is collect a bunch of Azurite that I don't need for upgrades, and then spend it most likely for primitive chaotic resonators, as those generally tend to be your best bang for the buck. But again, price check everything because economies in Path of Exile are volatile. I've been doing a little delving here, and you can see some of the random types of junk that I picked up, include a flammability curse on hit ring, a conductivity curse on hit ring, a nice little Uzaza's ring, I believe it is, that can be used to create a Precursor's Emblem, and an Onyx amulet, which dropped from the Crystal King. And that can be something like this All's Uprising, where Vitality has no reservation. Generally speaking, you want Hatred, not Vitality, so this one probably isn't worth very much and should have been sold unidentified. And so that's the basics of what you need to know to start farming Delve. If you're looking for more information on how to fight the Crystal King, as he is a fairly difficult fight, then I do have a video on that which you can watch after this. One thing to keep in mind is that during most leagues, Delve farming isn't particularly popular, and in general, it doesn't start out as a super profitable strategy. The curse on hit rings will go for a lot, but most of the rest won't sell early. However, as the league goes on, more people are crafting, which increases the value of fossils. And things like a perfect fossil, sanctified fossil, faceted fossil, fractured fossil, or glyphic fossil can all get quite valuable. Things like resonators in bulk get extremely valuable. Sure, the primitive chaotic resonators don't seem all that expensive at first, but before you know it, it might even be 60 or 70 per divine, and you get them pretty fast as you go down to depth 500. The general drops, like Awakened Sextants, can easily be sold to help sustain your strategy and buy more scarabs. And if you hit a fractured item with either Curse on hit or +1 Spectre, then oh boy, you're going to be in the money for sure. And those aren't the only options. There's a few other things like Fizz from hits taken as Chaos, which can be insanely valuable. But fractures are rare, so I wouldn't count on them. Last up, many of the boss drops, especially those from Ul and Ahuatli, can be extremely valuable. It does depend a little bit on the league, and it also depends on the timing of the league, but things like Crown of a Tyrant, Doryani's Machinarium, the Nuval Aspect, Ul's Uprising are all standout things which you can turn a profit with. And so Delve has a little bit of something for everyone. It's got those boss drops, and you could even assemble Precursors emblems if you really want to gamble, or it has the consistent stuff like selling fossils and resonators that you'll accumulate quickly. But if you want to know more on how to farm Delve, then I have a full article over at MaxwellGG that will go over all the basics that you need to know. And so with that said, I'm curious, did you try delving before? Maybe before it was reworked 2 or 3 times? And if so, what are your thoughts on farming it now? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below, along with some of your successes if you've had them. With that said, I'd like to take a minute to thank my patrons and channel members for the continued support. It's thanks to your direct support that I can make videos just like this one, which hopefully you find helpful. So if you do, consider supporting for as low as $1 a month. Link is down in the description below. With that said, thanks for watching, I hope you learned something, and remember Exile, mind the cracks. I'll see you again sometime soon.